by the Government of India in its quest for the elusive ideal of good governance. The legal form of the proposal was the Aadhaar, Targeted Delivery of Financial and Other Subsidies, Benefits and Services, Act, 2016. The Act, the constitutional validity of which was challenged by several individuals and organizations. One of the chief challenges to the Act was that it violated a fundamental right to privacy of Indian citizens. But the Aadhaar scheme was one of the most ambitious projects of the Government of India, launched with the sole purpose of empowering the marginalized section of the society. It was initiated as a scheme to provide a unique identification number for every citizen in India. This scheme gave way to many privacy rights battles. The question of dignity, informational self-determination and consent formed the basis for the privacy rights claims surrounding the Aadhaar scheme. On the historic day of 26 September 2018, a 5-judge bench upheld the validity of Aadhaar Act, but struck down many provisions, leading to severe reduction in the functional character of law. Aadhaar Act, to be constitutional, had struck down provisions such as Section 33(2), as well as Section 57, the question of possible state surveillance, as well as possibility of data breach and exclusion of citizen from government services and schemes, were mitigated on the basis of that fact that UED has claimed the system to be largely foolproof. Threshold of right to privacy and constitutional principles of proportionality as well as dignity requirements were attenuated, while upholding the constitutional validity of the Aadhaar Act as reasonable restriction. But in the majority decision, the requirement of right of autonomy and right of choice is not protected by upholding the Aadhaar Act. The requirement of Aadhaar for availing government schemes and benefits, as well as linking of Aadhaar to the PAN card allowed by the Supreme Court majority decision, does not provide any convincing constitutional rationale. Even the minimal exclusion of beneficiaries of government schemes due to lack of Aadhaar or authentication problem could lead to violation of dignity protection as required by the Constitution, even though the majority has struck down the Section 33(2) as well as the Section 57. The larger rationale of upholding the Aadhaar Act to be constitutional fails to meet the test of reasonable objective and reasonable means to impinge upon the right to privacy. The Aadhaar decision clearly rules out the possibility of private entities using the authentication mechanism. It also sends a clear message that the right to privacy will now be an important entity for any further legislative action. Decision direction expands expression. The case expands freedom of expression by recognizing privacy as an independently enforceable right, as opposed to a right that is available only as far as it impacts constitutionally guaranteed freedoms. This provides for protection of freedom of expression by recognizing rights such as the right against arbitrary, unregulated state surveillance, the right to express one's sexual orientation, religious expression, and data protection. In 2017, the Supreme Court of India delivered a landmark judgment in the case of Justice K.S. Puttaswamy, Retd, and Anarv Union of India and Ors. The decision fundamentally affirmed the right to privacy as a constitutional guarantee under Article 21, which guarantees the right to life and personal liberty. This ruling was a response to the growing concerns regarding personal data protection and individual autonomy in an increasingly digital world, where technology encroaches upon the private lives of citizens. The case emerged against a backdrop of legislative measures undertaken by the Indian government, specifically the implementation of the Aadhaar system, which aimed to create a biometric identity database. While the Aadhaar project was introduced with the intent of enhancing public welfare and efficiency in service delivery, it spurred a debate over the potential violation of individual privacy and civil liberties. The petitioners, led by Justice Puttaswamy, argued that such extensive surveillance measures without stringent safeguards could lead to a culture of overreach and control by the state. In a unanimous decision, the Supreme Court recognized that the right to privacy is intrinsic to the dignity of the individual and serves as a linchpin for other fundamental rights. The justices described privacy not merely as a right, but as a safeguard for liberty, an essential ingredient in creating an environment where individuals are free to express themselves without fear of reprisal or intrusion. This ruling sent shockwaves beyond legal circles, influencing social activism and legislative reform across the nation.